Show, where we help top leaders find their pathway to incredible success and a lifetime of happiness. Here is your host, Tom Dutta, the Quiet Warrior.
All right. This is Tom Dutta, the host of the Quiet Warrior Show. We're live streaming with you today. This is what we call the Way of the Quiet Warrior Real News, episode 5. And no pun intended, real news, R-E-E-L. Well, we're talking about a film. And many of you who've been following us, we are producing a feature film. And I'm really excited to show you this. This is the screenplay after 3 years of hard work. Menning Films, which is the film company that agreed to take the Way of the Quiet Warrior book, which is a book I authored and a story that's far-reaching to the big screen. And we'll be shooting that film in the near future in Canada and the United States. Really excited to bring you some key updates. This series is all about going behind the scenes and hearing from some of the great talent that have been joining the team. And so I'd like to first of all, introduce him to you, and then we're going to show you another little video before he comes on the screen. And his name is Mr. Todd MACKI. He's waiting in the green room. Now, Todd MACKI joins the film and as composer and writer of the original musical score for the Way of the Quiet Warrior film. We're just delighted to have him on board. Josh Menning is the director and sends along his excitement. I want to tell you a little bit about Todd. He's got quite an amazing bio. At about 44 years old, he's scored 57 films. I mean, it's incredible. I've checked out his site and looked at some of his work, and I'm blown away by it. He began with classical piano training at a very early age, and his musical path eventually led to classical training in percussion. And in those formative years, he hovered towards melodies, chord progressions, and electronic synthesis, emerging that passion that was born in him. And he recognized the value, and he initially endeavored to obtain a professional working mastery of engineering, producing, editing, mixing, and mastering processes, which really gave him the means to produce his own work. The passion this man has is take an intellectual concept or idea and find the musical emotional equivalent just is amazing. His work has been featured internationally. I won't read the long list, but you can certainly see his website on the screen there. He's been featured internationally and nominated for awards. And I'm going to mention toddmackicomposing.com, which is the website. Check it out. You can hear more. So before I introduce him to you, I would like to play a short video. So watch this video with us, everybody. It's a little bit of Todd's work. Stand by.
Sandcastles is a very human film. It delves right into the core of the human experience. And because of that, I felt that it was very important that the music didn't only evoke familiar human emotions, but that it also sounded human on a sonic level. One way that I felt this could be effectively accomplished was to intentionally sew imperfections right into the fabric of the score. Musically, I also wanted to mirror the delicate subtlety of the human experience, but somehow allow it to retain a deep and powerful presence as well.
All right. Well, welcome to the Quiet Warrior Show, and welcome to the film team, Todd. It's a pleasure to have you here, man.
Thanks, Tom. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Does watching that clip ever get old for you?
No, that film in particular, Sandcastles, was one of my favorite ones that I was able to score because it was about humanity. And I have a cat, by the way. So
we love it.
We had a little scare today. I had to take her to the vets because she's all needy and down here. But
what's her name? What's her name?
Her name is Bean.
Okay. Okay, hold on a sec. MACKI is sushi. Dutta like butter, and now we have the bean. There's a food connection going on here. I love it.
Okay.
That's why we're live streaming and we're authentic, man. That's all right.
Yeah, we're keeping it real. So
yeah.
you'll hear her squawking. No, my favorite, filmmaking. There's a bazillion. You can have exploding robots. You can have people going back in time. You can have the kind of thing where it's very real or it's sci-fi and not real. But the core of what I truly love to score is when it's a human experience and when it truly is about sadness and happiness and elation and things that we all feel deeply inside. And when you watch a movie like Saving Private Ryan, your reaction is going to be very different than when you're watching like Transformers, because if Saving Private Ryan was about real people in a real situation and difficult things. So no, I enjoy what I do. I look back on the former scores that I've done fondly, every single score, and I don't take on every single score that comes my way. It needs to be a good fit. And so with, yeah, go ahead.
No, did I get that right? I think you've done 57 scores. That's incredible.
Roughly.
Wow.
And I do, it's something. No, I did not go. I actually dropped out of college. I did not go to school for this. This has been a long thing, and I came from a different era. A large part of our audience probably doesn't know what a cassette tape is, or what
I do. I still do.
Yeah, I mean, there's a certain era of where things were. So I came from a time where I was just musical. I just liked it. I had no ambition of doing this for a living whatsoever. I was going to be a professional skateboarder. That was going to work out amazingly. But it wasn't until I started kind of doing it for film, and I had my first experience doing it out of my college dorm room. I had my little synthesizer and stuff, and my roommate, he was a camera guy for the school. He needed music for something, and he's like, "Oh man, we need a song by tonight. Can you make us something?" And I honestly was like, "Can't anybody?" I didn't really think of it as anything unusual. So I wrote him a track, and then it wasn't before long that people were like giving me money to do it, and I was like, okay. So I threw myself into it. It was all that I really wanted to do, and it was something that I was really happy doing. And the more that I did it, the more involved I became, and there was no turning back after 25, 26. I was all in.
Yeah. I mean, that's exciting. We met just recently, and I know we were on another interview the other day together, and you were telling me about just the process. The first thing I want to do is put the screen a little different here so people can see there's a bit of a backdrop behind us. That's actually the concept poster for the movie, The Way of the Quiet Warrior film. Now, The Way of the Quiet Warrior film is based on a book, and there's true life events in there. I'm going to just hold up something I'm really proud of. Let's show it there on the screen. This is a screenplay, and it's 3 years in the making, Todd, and about 112 pages. And so we're at that stage now where there's a lot of things happening with music. Director Josh, who we just love working with, Josh Menning of Menning Films, had a relationship with you. You'd done the last film, Song of the Tree Frogs, which everybody please check that out. What I want to ask you about is just take us through. We want to teach the audience here, everybody, mostly our lay people. How do you take this, assuming you've read screenplay and you get to that point? I think there's something called picture lock, and then you do your magic. Tell us about the process over the next little bit.
Sure. So, well, the first thing, depending upon the movie, I do like to read the screenplay. I do like to read what are the emotional currents that I'm up against here? What are the action points? What are the drama points? What's the basic idea? On the technical terms, because I don't always have that luxury. Sometimes they're changing things. Things are flying by the seat of the pants. It's quite often that I'm called in for like a last minute. We need a composer now. Here's the movie. You've got 3 weeks. That happens. But assuming I have the time, I like to read the screenplay. I like to get into the director's head, and if I can get into what the director and the producer are after, then the music is usually going to turn out okay. So I try to get to know them. I try to, almost on a Freudian level, what makes you tick, and what makes the heartbeat of the story what it is. So they then hand me what's called picture lock, and that is where the cut of the film just will not change. They'll add graphics and gunshots and things, but like if you've ever Googled Star Wars before they added James Earl Jones, that was picture lock. They had the sound of the original actor talking through this mask, and it was silly. There were no gunshots. That's all added, later. So I get picture lock, and I watch the film ad nauseum. Now, keep in mind, there's no music at all in this thing, and I have the terrifying and grateful opportunity to be able to put that in there. So I'll watch the film 3 times, 4 times. I'll keep a journal with me, writing down ideas about the characters. And I'm not even thinking about music at all. I'm not thinking strings here, a didgeridoo, or a whatever. There might be sometimes, if it's a cultural piece, where I'll think, oh, like a bodhrán, a Celtic drum would sound cool when that war tribe comes in, or whatever. But what I try to do is almost more of a cerebral, intellectual thing instead of an emotional musical thing. And I journal out, okay, this happened, this is happening, he's the bad guy, he's the good guy, she's the love who's torn in between, there's tension there. And then I come back to the director and I read in my journal, I say, am I getting this right? This is this scene, that is that scene. Here you're trying to foreshadow what he's doing, yada, yada. If I can understand that part of it, in many ways, the music just kind of writes itself. If I look at a scene and there's, there's puppies running through a field, say, I immediately think of chord progressions and harp glissandos and flutes and, bumpy, there's things that make things sound a certain way. But if there's a dragon flying over that's about to come overhead and breathe fire and destroy the whole field of puppies, the musical context takes on a whole different meaning. So I have to see the dragon. I have to see the dragon with puppies, and that's called the copywritten movie called "The Dragon Kills the Puppies."
I didn't want to laugh in the middle of your cut there, but I got this dark sense of humor, and I'll tell you, I went there. Again, everybody, we're talking to composer, and he'll be writing the original musical score for the feature film, The Way of the Quiet Warrior. Todd's just joined the team. We're really excited to have him on board. And 57 movies scored later. Here you are. I want to ask you this, from any of the films you've done, you don't have to name specific film, but I know you're in demand. You're in the United States and North America. You've done work everywhere. Tell us about a memorable moment, something that stands out, whether it was something in the studio or whatever you call the place you do all your work, or anything at all.
Oh gosh, I mean, I could write 10 novels of. I mean, there's different layers to it. There are some that go perfect. They hand me the movie, I write the music, and they love it, and everybody has happy, and we go home. But there are other times, a lot of it, I think more of the surprises come when I'm working with an orchestra and I'm working with live human beings, and we have so many hilarious stories that during one session, there was a guy, they wear headphones to hear the click track, and they hear my talking to them, so it's not too loud. And one guy had his headphone wrapped around the music stand, and he pulled back to do a rumph on his horn, and he knocked over his whole music stand, and the whole thing fell. And we kept that take because there was a percussive interesting, and I'm like, I love it. Let's keep it. So you have to be open to serendipitous moments that
Yeah.
you don't plan for.
Yeah.
My
Well,
cat. Oh, go ahead.
now, I was just going to jump in. Something that you mentioned about that triggered. I was looking at your website, toddmackicomposing.com, and I know you've changed the website now. You can mention that at the end. There was a few things in there I learned because I didn't know this, that the mics are so powerful. They pick up everything, even turning of pages when the
Oh, yeah.
musicians do that. And then I blew my mind that they said most times the musicians, they don't get the music sheets until the day of. And
Oh,
yet,
it's
yeah, tell us
common.
about that.
It's common for me to bring a printer to the session because we are given so few. I mean, composers for film are a different breed. Like we musically, it's like we've grown up on the street with a broken glass bottle and had to fight for our life since we were 2, kind of thing. And we have to write fast. We have to write quickly. There's no second guessing. There's no dilly dallying. I mean, there are things. I have written so much music, I've forgotten most of it. And with the shortest amount of time, I had to write a 90-minute feature was 5 weeks. And that was an hour and 50 minutes of orchestral music. And it blew me. I mean, I got no sleep. I didn't, I was just writing. I had my head fast asleep, my hands still writing, So sometimes though, that's, and what I've learned with it, that doesn't actually make it worse. I mean, a lot of times it's our second guessing and it's the rewriting, it's playing it for our friends and being paranoid about it. I've learned to rely on that first impulse. Like, no, I love it. It's cool. Write it down. Do it. I don't overthink it. I don't overplay it. I don't doubt it. It's what I like. And I'll do that with a director. I don't write them 18 different drafts. I write them one and say, this is perfect. This is what you need. And then of course I mean that facetiously. If he has changes, of course we go back in and whatever.
Yeah, I remember watching everybody on Todd's website. You've got to go there and check it out. There's a bunch of videos there. Your website, I love it. And we played one video early in this, so if people join late, go back and definitely watch it. And the one in there, I think you said at some point, I heard you tell me that at some point the song kind of writes itself in your mind. And I was watching that live, some of those videos, and there's just so much going on. There's even the part where I didn't quite understand. When we're listening to horror movies or murder mysteries, and you hear like screeching and all these sounds that make you sort of jump out of your feet. There's some fairly funky things that you guys do with tubs of water and taking bows from the instruments and turning them backwards. So it's fascinating to me. I want to mention about the title track, the original song. You've met Eddie Anders just recently, who we just did a live with to announce. And you were talking about 2 different options for if there's a title track. And I think you referenced example of the Titanic with Celine Dion. But can you just talk about that for a minute? There's 2 options to bring a title track into here, and then we've sort of landed on one. But just for a couple minutes, talk about that.
Sure. So it's quite common for the composer to kind of hold hands with an artist who wrote a title track. And I mean, the most famous one I can think of is Celine Dion, "My Heart Will Go On" with the Titanic, because you hear themes of that through the movie. Another one is "Here I Am" by Bryan Adams from Spirit of the Cimarrillion, the horse cartoon. So Eddie and I, unfortunately, he's a super collaborative guy. Not every songwriter is. Some songwriters can't open up kind of what they did to some other elements being changed and handled. But what we're going to do is take his track that he wrote, which was beautifully written, and use chord progressions, thematic material from it, and kind of weave it in and out of the story in the film, so that it becomes a familiar, kind of a subconscious thing where you've heard this theme. Like Star Wars, you heard Darth Vader's theme, 18 times, and you get to feel that when you. So the title track will be kind of representative of what a lot of the score materials are going to be taken from, and vice versa. We'll probably add some orchestral elements into his track, and but the bottom line is that the music has to serve the film. this is not a, here's what I want to do.
Yeah.
We're doing this. No. The film is the boss. It speaks. I listen. I interpret. So
Yeah.
we start with the movie always.
I just love that. I've grown up watching film. Most people know my background as being business, and the again, we're holding it up here. The screenplay, everybody, the Way of the Quiet Warrior film. And 3 years in the making, the screenplay is pretty much done, and now we're talking about music. This is Todd MACKI, who will be creating the composing and writing the original musical score. I just saw a little note pop up. I want to honor our director, Josh Menning, who seemed to be popping in with some very valuable feedback. Let me put it on the screen there. There it is, a new movie idea: puppies versus dragons. So we can always count on our fearless leader there. And I want to take this minute to Todd, while you're here, to acknowledge the Josh Menning. It when I met Josh, it was through some of his other work, but it's a match made in heaven. And we did a bit of a press release initially about this. And my company is a leadership development company here up in Canada, and Josh is. I said, he's going to be blushing. I said, I see some of a lot of his work, and just talking to Josh, he's like a young Lucas to me. He's a guy who's already on the move and winning awards. So I'm just honored to have him involved. And you guys are the connection. He knew you. And also want to recognize John Smith, who did a lot of work on writing the screenplay and had just done a movie called The Song of the Tree Frogs, which you, I believe, were involved in as well, correct?
Correct. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So amazing things. Hey, everybody, we're not going to steal the thunder here, but the title track, that's being written. It's at an early stage. Todd's going to get involved in this once we get to a later stage. But again, Todd, I want to give you the last word. Just tell us anything you want, maybe about your excitement to be involved in this, and where people can check out more of your work.
Sure. Well, I do have on my website, which actually needs badly to be updated. I haven't touched it I've just been too busy. But I guess if there's anything that I would say would be the most important part of my musical journey has been to not complicate anything. I've met composers who assume that I know a lot more than I do. And I remember I wrote a thing for a choral piece, and there was another composer who said, "Oh, you did a B9 7 over 4th chord." And I was like, "Did I really?" So what I would say is, musically, it's important to feel the emotions and to love it and to not overthink it, but to just, when you hear it, to be able to go, "That's puppies."
That's awesome. I do want to do this because I have this dark humor, and it's going to come out on my show. Everybody, if they don't know what my involvement is, the book I wrote, The Way of the Quiet Warrior, the story is based on true events, and I've been honored to be asked to be a producer. Just I have always said this as a CEO who builds companies, that the way to do great things is surround yourself by people who are greater or more talented. And you, sir, I mean, all of you are so talented. It's like David and Goliath for me. And, one of the things I wanted to do here is just add another comment to the screen that came in. So excited for this production. Todd MACKI is brilliant. So you have a fan club there, man.
Actually, shout out to Robin. She is a cellist that I've hired for many productions, and I think she's watching. She's a very accomplished.
There you go.
Player.
Yeah, so it's going to be a lot of fun. So everybody, keep looking out for these updates as we make progress. We'll do more of these Way of the Quiet Warrior real news. The purpose is to give the audience some value in how do we do these things? How is music made? And we'll be talking next about choosing actors and things like budgeting and going out and, maybe even how do you fund a movie? We've got a bunch of things to do. We'll be filming this movie in Canada, Todd, so I can't wait to have you up here. I'll certainly be coming down to where you are. Tell us where you're at again. You're down in Youngstown?
Youngstown, Ohio, Northeast Ohio. Mm-hmm.
Fantastic. And before I wrap up, I just want to say that already, have you ever had a film that you've done where you've gotten your emotions into the film because there's a connection to it, and that's really made you emotional about it?
This sounds kind of pretentious to say, but every single one.
Yeah.
There's a price tag to what I do. And the emotions, I've been called a controlled hurricane before. And, I feel very deeply, and I wear my heart on my sleeve, which works for my occupation. But I have to say the ones where there's tragedy is hard, or if there's something, because I have to kind of watch the scene over and over, and I have to watch the murder happen over and over and over and over, and writing the music in. So
Yeah, thanks for sharing that. I do a lot of work in mental health, and there's they call it secondary trauma, even counselors who so it's transferring grief or things from somebody else. So it's definitely, we honor you for the work that you do. This film is going to be emotional. It's going to be epic for people watching. We're not going to spill the beans. That's why we're doing this early. But one of the things I said to our director team is, if I had my way, I want a musical score and song that goes on a roller coaster ride of the highest of highs, the lowest of lows. So far, I haven't been disappointed with some of the things that I'm seeing. So just really honored. I'll close with this. There's this really freaky kind of thread of food going on in our little team here. So last time we were talking to you, I think lobster and strawberry jam came up. And then a little bit of your last name. Your last name is about something about sushi, because
no, my
MACKI.
last name Mackie means roll. And it's like
That's right.
Roll,
And then, of course, Eddie Anders, who's doing the title track, said his dream is to be sitting in a stream on a piano performing. And then somehow the lobsters came in there. So we're going to have a lot of fun. But I want to put one more on here to honor you. We are watching. And
yep.
Who are those folks?
That is Mom and Dad.
Well, hello. Hello, Mom and Dad from Vancouver, British Columbia, Canada. I'm truly, truly excited to be involved with your son here. So everybody, I'm going to wrap up on this, Todd. Thank you very much for being part of this journey. We're just at the beginning. And everybody, find your true passion like you see Todd has, and live life with purpose, and live the life that you deserve and desire. Thank you.
Thanks, Tom.
Stand by.